So, for today's board recap podcast, here we are right before Thanksgiving, Dr. Smith. Hard to believe.
It is hard to believe, but tell you what, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, there's so much
What a
for us to
great
be
time of
grateful
year.
for.
Yes.
Absolutely. And specifically with EVSC, incredibly talented team that we have at EVSC, and then our students and our families. Just so much to be thankful
You know,
for.
recently we just kind of compiled a lot of the things that we've been sharing on social media, and you and I talk about it here during the good news portion of this. And when you put everything together that our students have done with the support of their families, with the support of our employees at the school level, you just think, my goodness, what a great first part of the school year. We've had so many
Absolutely.
accomplishments, so many great experiences for kids.
Right. And I appreciate that collection because, we tend to have school, I think, especially as good at this, and not necessarily maybe in a great way, but we tend to compartmentalize. So there's the football season, there's the marching band, or
Sure.
everything tends to be siloed. But when you are able to take kind of a retrospective look
Mhm.
back just over the first semester, and the first semester is not even complete yet,
Right.
that a lot of outstanding accomplishments.
Right.
And as we know, that's not just the work of one individual
Sure.
in a school, just the collective efforts of the EVSC team, students and staff, families.
And just the progress we know our students are making. We
Yeah,
may not put this on social media, but if we had a first grade teacher here, a third grade teacher, middle school teacher, and said, "Tell me about how your students have progressed," for they would be able to say, "Oh my goodness," to look where they started in August, and
right.
here we're approaching December, and they've just grown by leaps and bounds. And
Yeah.
it's why
Yeah,
you always say it's a great place to work, great thing to be
you bet.
involved with, school.
And one of the many blessings I have in this position is I have the opportunity to go out and read to
Right.
kids in the primary grades, and um, it's I was reading to second grade class in one of their books, and it's like that kind of the lexile level and the difficulty. I think is something that my generation, when I was in
Mhm.
school, probably we would have been in third or fourth grade before
Right.
we would have had something that of that degree of difficulty. So teachers knocking it out of the park.
Sure, sure. Well, speaking of knocking it out of the park, let's talk about good news,
Sounds good.
and we'll hear some more things. And this, you and I have talked about this. I've had the opportunity to be at this. This was called the Future Women of Criminal Justice. It's our criminal justice program out at Southern Indiana Career and Tech Center. This year just happens to be, interestingly enough, I think with the exception of one male, the rest of the students this year are females, which is interesting. But the students really put this together and organized it. But they brought in females who are in leadership positions. So they brought in our mayor to speak to them, our Vanderbilt County prosecutor, law enforcement officers who are female, including the first region's FBI agent who is female, and talk to the kids. And just a great learning experience.
You bet. And if listeners are able to actually view this video, and not just listen, just look at the smiles
Right,
on those
right. Or
faces.
if you go back to our social from a few weeks ago and look at those pictures, yeah, the students really did have a
Yep.
great time with this, and certainly took on so much of the organization of this, which
Yep.
is great when you get to that high
Yep.
school level to see students taking that on and that ownership
You
of
bet.
their learning.
So, social media, we are pretty prevalent on social
Sure.
media. They say a picture, says 10,000 or 1,000
Right.
words. When you look at those photos, you can
Hmm.
see engagement, you can see
Hmm.
joy, so many things
On behalf of the presenters
that you
too, they
want.
really enjoyed being there. As I was listening to them, I could tell that they knew the value of them speaking to these students
Yeah.
because they were hearing it directly from people who are doing it, and especially for female students to see these
Yeah.
are females who have risen the ranks. And so, anyway, great experience
Yeah.
there. So that was first part of good news. We've talked about this before, but now here a couple of weeks ago, Oak Hill Elementary School actually had their school-wide celebration for their distinction as a national blue ribbon school, one of only 356 schools nationwide. This is very difficult to achieve, and you were there too, and great way to celebrate with the students.
It was a great morning, so well deserved. And once again, and I was blessed to speak to them. It is the epitome of team and
Hmm.
teamwork, because that's not an award that you get without having an outstanding teacher in every classroom, outstanding school leadership. I know Brittany Brown was there last year when they were designated
Hmm.
as a blue ribbon school, and now she's leading Evans
Right.
Elementary for
Yeah,
us.
the last four, well, the current principal, the last 4 principals, including Ken Wimpy, who's been retired for
Yeah.
some time, who spent many, many years there. Oak Hill's always been a great
26
school.
years, I
Yes.
believe. Yeah.
I had the pleasure of going there from kindergarten through 8th grade back in the
Yeah.
day, and just always been a great
Yeah.
school. I have so many fond memories, but they're getting it done, and we're very proud of them.
Yeah. We sure are.
Central High School has a student, speaking of being proud, Max Lair. He's a senior at Central. He made the National Honor Choir. Over 5,000 students across the U.S. auditioned for 1,200 spots. Max is one of them, and that's a testament not only to his skills, but our vocal music program in EVSC. Love seeing
You
that.
bet. Congratulations, Max.
Yeah, really proud of him. New Tech Institute, they were recently named again. They've had this distinction before, a National Spotlight School in the New Tech Network, that network of schools that are really project based, slightly different approach to high school. Our students and families that are New Tech involved with New Tech, they just have such an affinity for that program, so much pride there. But other schools now will come and visit them to learn more about becoming a New Tech Network school. But congrats to New Tech.
You bet. The awards just keep coming for New Tech.
Yes.
I was there when they unveiled their robotics program
That's
for
something I know
this
you
year.
always enjoy going to.
Certainly do. Just the the personality of the students involved greeted us at the door. They will be successful in whatever they choose to do in their
Right.
life. I think because of the experience that they get, not only at in the robotics program, but New Tech overall. And then Sarah, my wife, and I walked down to their archery practice, and the coach there just came up and said, "Wow, our kids are so excited." I think frequent listeners will know that they moved into what was the Harwood building on First Avenue.
Yes.
So it's the first time in over 10 years that they've
Right.
been in their own school and they've
Right.
made it their own. But
And they really do like that.
they do. But just the vibe and
Mhm.
everything. I haven't run into anybody that has
Right.
any disparaging comment about New Tech. It's project-based school. It's a smaller environment for
It's
a
a
high
great
school.
size. If you're a family out there and your student isn't sure about that large traditional rah-rah type high school environment, which for a lot of kids they love, but if you want that smaller environment, I mean, New Tech is a great. The student just said recently, I know everybody in my class, and you
Yeah,
don't say that in a large school.
right. Just a great option that
Yes.
our community has.
Right. And then last thing of good news, you'll appreciate this. Had the opportunity to do another student podcast, and that was with a student from Wrights and a student from North talking about their marching band experience with them going to the state finals. And boy, to hear them talk about the work, the dedication, but their love of that program, how many friends they've made along the way. It was a great podcast.
Yes, and once again, I think it's emblematic of everything that's right in education today. And there are so many things that are right with education today. But I was blessed to go up to state finals and saw North and Wrights compete. Once again, students, staff, parent volunteers working side by side at the culmination of that season-long activity that started
Which is a
for many of our
long
students.
season.
Right. Probably got the music back in May,
Right.
and started working to perfect their performance. So,
Right.
uh,
And
just
for these two
so
students,
many good things.
it's not over yet because the student who's in color guard from North, she talked about how now she's a Huskette. So, of course, she'll
Yes.
continue with dance. Same instructor, Mrs. Farmer, that she worked with through marching band, through color guard. And then the drum major from Wrights talked about how now, he'll continue with doing band at basketball games and
Right.
concert band and all of that. So, love hearing those students talk about their experiences.
Trust me, their seasons never
They
end
do
when you're
not.
in
You are
instrumental
correct.
music. Yeah.
Yes, as you very well know. So
Yes.
that wraps up all this good news, Dr. Smith. If you will take us into consent.
I will be happy to. So, item 3.02, consideration allowance of payments for this period of time, it's 13.2 million, and includes many of the typical things that we have this time of year. Also includes contract bus driver payments, the payment we make one time a month, as well as our health insurance payment. Moving on then to item 3.02, consideration to approve the purchase from extracurricular account. And this is for Central High School. They have purchased a gorgeous scorers table for their basketball and volleyball.
Really does look nice.
Yes. Certainly grateful for everything that they do to provide a great, high quality experience for their student athletes. Moving on to item 3.04, consideration to approve the change order number 1 for the Bossy High School Inlow Field roofing project of 2024. So with this, the actual sign that was a fluorescent sign. They took that apart, replaced it with LED lighting that also then came with a new power source. And then to reinforce all that, they upgraded some of the existing steel and the X bracing to make certain that it would last for decades to come.
Love seeing how much care we take for that facility because it is a historic high school facility, and we're proud to have it.
Yes, it is. 3.05 consideration to approve the annual renewal of technology data center VMware. So these virtual machines are actually, it's a software now that creates virtual servers. So as technology continues to evolve, that the price for this really is driven by cores, and used to be computers would have one core in them. Now laptops and other computers have multiple cores. As we're moving more toward cloud-based um, operations, we will have fewer physical servers, and we're moving more and more to the VMware. And then moving on then to item 3.06, consideration to approve the renewal agreement with Curriculum Associates LLC. So this is a great program for our teachers that serve our MLL students, the multilingual learners, and it really provides a lot of resources for them and helps with communication, not only to students but also to parents and our other teachers. And
And
then,
then that takes us into personnel
yes,
recommendations.
and the recommendations there that were approved in Monday's meeting are there for the public's perusal. And then moving on to action item 5.01, consideration of cancellation of contract. The board, after deliberating in executive session, decided that they would like to have some more information about that because they take these decisions very, very seriously
Absolutely.
and wanted to make certain that they could access some additional information so they could make the best decision possible. And so that's why that was delayed until an upcoming meeting.
Okay. And then it looks like we had 9 information items last night.
Yes. So I do this with a certain amount of caution, knowing your affinity for podcasts. But Jason, could you take us through 6.01, please?
Absolutely. So we're excited to enter into a 5-year agreement or asking the board for their approval for that at the next meeting to create new websites for EVSC. And that's for our district website, evscschools.com. That's for all of our school websites, our program websites. We have lots of information. We call it a repository, file cabinet, if you will, where you can go and find just about everything you want to know about our schools, our district. And we're going to switch and go with Final Site is what we're asking for approval on. They actually serve 83 of the nation's 100 largest school districts. So they have a great reputation. They work with us every step of the way. That's going to be about a year-long process to move from our current vendor, which is School Messenger, to Final Site. Really looking forward to having websites that are very sleek, very modern, very appealing. We always want, all of us go to websites for information. If you're traveling, if you're looking up information, and you want a website that's well organized and very graphically and visually appealing. Board members asked about this last night about the translation piece of it, because of course that's very important now, and these sites will be fully translated every aspect for all individual languages. So really looking forward to a lot of work ahead, but a process that's going to result in some really nice looking websites.
Great. And just another valuable service for our community and for our families.
Well, when people want information now, they go to the web. So you want to make sure that they can find that information, whether it's future families, current families, or future employees that are looking at our district.
Absolutely. Very good. Thank you for that. Item 6.02, consideration to approve the 25-26 program of studies for high school courses. So only 2 proposed new courses, or new to us. One is AP Seminar, so that would fit in our suite of AP courses, which I think are approximately 30 different AP classes that our students have access to.
It's always really interesting every year when you hear, when you listen to a program of studies and you have new courses added to hear what's out there.
Absolutely. We always want to provide the best, not only in resources, but opportunities for our students. I think this is just evidence of this, which leads nicely into a proposed course for North High School would be aerospace engineering.
I don't know if you took that in high school.
Actually, I did not.
Okay.
I seem to
You would have
remember
liked it, though.
people thinking about going to the moon when I was just kidding. But this is kind of completes that Project Lead the Way pathway at North High School. We have several students that at the end of their sophomore year from North in the Project Lead the Way program that go to Career and Tech Center, but there are about 40 students that don't, that come out of that program because they want to remain at North. And so we think that this is just a natural progression with aerospace engineering. And I also wonder, since North is just down the road from the
Mhm.
airport, if there aren't some opportunities
Sure.
perhaps in the
Maybe
future.
take advantage of that proximity.
Yes. So really excited about the opportunities that await our students in that arena.
And how many AP courses? You said close to 30,
I
is that right?
I think last time I looked, I believe it was 32, but
Okay,
I'm just going to put 30 out there
right.
because I'm certain that that is in the ballpark.
Well, we know how important it is for students to have access to that, so
Yes.
we're certainly pleased to be able to offer that many.
And we've said numerous times in the last 5 years now how we've grown
Mhm.
individuals that are not only taking AP courses, but also experience great amount of success in AP courses. And we're very, very pleased with that. Over a 300% increase.
Right.
Moving on then to item 3.06, and actually, I'm sorry, 6.03 as well as 6.04. These were actually commingled by our Chief Technology Officer, Joe Herdink, as we look to make certain that we can place in the hands of all of our teachers, our administrators, and all of our classified staff real time information for us to make the best informed decision. So, as we position ourselves for having voluminous sets of data. It's one thing to have data, it's another thing to be able to mine that data and then to be able to have actionable data sets.
Doesn't do you much good to have a lot of data if you really can't utilize that
Right.
for
Nor does
purposes
it
to
do
help.
you much good to spend a great deal of time mining the data and then not having a whole lot of time to actually act
Mhm.
on the data. So we are very hopeful and excited about moving into this next. What I would say, it's really a seminal point in time in terms of data and technology, to where it would basically be a data lakehouse in the cloud. And we are preparing for the time when, through AI, we can do a query that says, I want to look at this subset of students and see what their performance is and see where their deficiencies lie. And then it will provide that to us in an instant. And so 6.03, 6.04 are the early steps that we're taking now to put us in position to do just
Because
that.
for somebody who hasn't been involved with this, the better data we have, the more we can act on that data, understand that data, the better decisions we can make about instruction is really
Absolutely.
what it comes down to, right?
And we know how important education is for all of our students. We want to make certain that we have the information that we need to drive success for each and every one of our students, and this will position us to do just that.
Very good. This next item, a lot of interesting information here when you talk about property and casualty insurance for an entity as large as EVSC.
Yes. So 6.05, consideration to approve the property and casualty insurance renewal. EVSC is very unique in terms of its size. We have $1.6 billion worth of assets that we insure. That is a significant
It's a
amount
lot.
of
Right.
inventory, if you will, of assets that not
Makes us
just
really unique in this region.
right. I think Brian Hancock with Epic spoke to the board in Monday's meeting. He said, "You draw a circle of 100-mile radius around EVSC, and you will not find another school district that is remotely close to EVSC."
Right.
So, because of that, there are not that many insurance companies that have the capacity to actually write, um, uh, an insurance plan that will meet our needs because they can't take on that kind of liability in terms of issuing that kind of policy. So that means when you have a smaller number of players, not as much competition as we would like, I think. But that's just one factor. The biggest factor driving the insurance market, not only for um, a public entity like a school corporation, but also individual homeowners. When you look at the way weather patterns have transitioned over time, tornadoes have moved
Mhm.
in the United States to where they're going a little bit more south and further east. And then when you look at all the hurricane activity in Florida and our southernmost states and the damage that that has caused, I think insurance companies have even just wholesale left the
Mhm.
Florida market.
Right.
So it is
Same thing out on the West Coast too.
right.
I mean, very
So it's
tricky.
becoming an increasingly difficult environment, I think, to have uh, an insurance policy written for you that is not just blowing up in terms of cost. So the expense for this, we were anticipating another 35 to 40% increase. We're grateful that through Epic's efforts and through maneuvering a little bit with our policy, it is experiencing an 18% increase, but that still, I think, is a very expensive increase. It
Mhm.
represents an over $300,000 increase. So the renewal premium is going to be $2.1 million. And I saw doing some research for this because this work started back in early spring. It's not something that's just provided a couple days before the board meeting, but I believe are the same coverage, actually better coverage. Back in 2014, we purchased for a little over $700,000. Now 2.1
Right.
million. So that's just one example of also in continuing business. I talked about the non-discretionary expenses that we have
Mhm.
in our operations fund, specifically property and casualty insurance, as well as our utilities and everything we've done with utilities, from installing solar fields to installing LED lights to installing water conservation.
We've done everything really we can to control those
Right.
costs.
So those, when you look at property and casualty, when you look at our energy costs, and then the third non-discretionary spend, if you will, of our transportation costs, those costs together add up to about 80% of our net levy. So
That is a large percentage.
it's like when you get your paycheck every other week, you got 80% that goes for those non-discretionary costs. And I'm not even talking about salaries for individuals. I'm
Right.
not talking about capital projects, so just painting, maintaining our facilities,
Right. HVAC, all
HVA,
of that.
right. So that is how, just like everybody, we're getting squeezed tighter and tighter for those non-discretionary costs and expenses. But that is what it is. Uh,
And we're lucky to have such a long-term relationship with Epic and the
we are.
guidance. You mentioned Brian Hancock, his expertise, our chief of staff, Rick Cameron, his office. As you said, a lot of work and time goes into making sure we're where we need to be with
Yes.
this.
And I appreciate everyone's efforts on that. And then just to wrap this up, 6.06 to 6.09, those are the monthly financial reports that Dr. Underwood provides for the boards. They are there for the community and viewers' perusal. And as we say frequently, and you can go back to 2008 all the way to 2024 and see these same reports.
And click on those links and those attachments, and everything you want to find out is right there at your disposal. So, as we said at the beginning, Dr. Smith, it's been a great year, a lot to be thankful for. But we find ourselves at this time, and again, thankful for everyone involved, our students, our families, our staff. It's been a great school year so far, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your
Well,
family.
thank you, and happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, and happy Thanksgiving to all of our loyal listeners and patrons. We are thankful for you.
Very well said, and we will see everyone back in December.
Sounds great.